Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Last period we were discussing about competition and we'll be continuing with competition this period also. And once it is completed, we'll start with the next population interaction. So we learned about interference competition and also competitive release. What is meant by interference competition? Who will tell me? Anna, what is interference competition?
It is the feeding efficiency of species.
Once again, you made it very short. I am not able to hear you properly. So keep that in mind. I want some noticeable lip movements when you answer. Don't read. You know the answer? You know the answer? Yes. Tell me.
It's the feeding efficiency of species.
The feeding efficiency of?
Species
Mm.
is reduced by
One species will be interfered or inhibited by?
other species.
Okay, so that is known as interference competition. What is competitive release? Nandana, what is competitive release? Children, before I proceed, let me say one thing. For the sake of getting attendance, if you are joining like this without the video, please remember I will not mark attendance. And as I used to tell you, I will believe only what I see. Yes, Nandana.
A species restricted to a small geographical area expands when the competing species is.
I assume that what you are saying is correct. I am not able to hear and I am not able to follow from your lips also. Anyways, repeat once again.
A species restricted to a small
Restricted
area
to a small area. Okay.
expands when the competing species is removed.
Okay. Okay, correct. So competitive release and interference competition. So all these are very important. So such terms you should remember and all these examples, because based on the examples, assertion, reasoning question, case study question and multiple choice questions, I have already told you it can be very tricky. Don't underestimate MCQs. So it will be very difficult to score marks there. Don't think that it is very easy, just multiple choice. So all you will find it difficult to choose the correct option. So you should be that thorough with your textbook. Okay, now we are proceeding to Gauss competitive exclusion principle. Let's see what is meant by Gauss competitive exclusion principle. So here in this picture, you can see some birds, different colored birds are there. You call them as warblers. Smaller yellow bird species forages across whole tree. Larger red species competes for resources. Red dominates in the middle for more abundant resources. Yellow is adapting to a new niche, avoiding competition. So I will explain it. I hope you have seen the picture. Gauss competitive exclusion principle. This principle states that two closely related species competing for the same resources cannot coexist indefinitely, and the competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually. So this is the principle given by Gauss. Gauss competitive exclusion principle states that two closely related species competing for the same resources, they are closely related and their requirements are also same, and such two species cannot coexist, means they cannot remain together. They cannot exist together for a long period of time. Gradually, one will get eliminated. The competitively inferior one will get eliminated. That was the principle suggested by Gauss. But this may not be true always. It can be true, but not always. When the resources are limited, there might be a chance the competitively, because resources are limited and the competitively superior one is taking hold of all the resources, then the weaker one will be deprived of them. So that can lead to the extinction of that or the removal of that species from there. But it is not true always. Once again, the principle states that two closely related species competing for the same resources cannot coexist indefinitely, and the competitively inferior one will be eventually eliminated. That is his principle, but this may not be true. This cannot happen always, but this can be true in case when the resources are limited. Species facing competition. So when different species living in a habitat, when they are having some competition or when they are facing competition from the other species, they evolve some mechanisms which will facilitate them to coexist rather than getting eliminated from there, rather than exclusion. They devise or they find out some methods by means of which, or they evolve, gradually they evolve some strategies or methods by means of which they can coexist rather than getting eliminated. And for that, one example is also given, that is resource partitioning. And what you see in the figure here is resource partitioning among the different species of birds, closely related. Warbler species, they are related species, they are living, more than 5 species, they are living on the same tree. And how they carry out resource partitioning and coexist there, that we are going to learn. So as per Gore's principle, if that is true in all the cases, these bird species or warblers cannot coexist because they are competing for the same resources and they are living in the same habitat, related species, but still they are coexisting. So that is against Gore's principle. So Gore's competitive exclusion principle states that if two closely related species competing for the same resource, that two closely related species competing for the same resources cannot coexist indefinitely, they cannot remain like that for a long period of time. Eventually, the competitively inferior one will get eliminated. But this is not true. Resource partitioning or the example of warbler species also will help us to know that this is not true always, but that might be true, that can come true when the resources are limited. And when a group of species, or when different species are living together in the same habitat and when they are facing competition, they will evolve some mechanisms by means of which they can coexist rather than exclusion. Rather than getting eliminated, they will devise some mechanism by means of which they all can coexist in the same area. Typical example for that is resource partitioning. Resource partitioning. If two species compete for the same resource, they could avoid competition by choosing different times for feeding or different foraging patterns. Naureen, what is meant by resource partitioning? You have understood, no, Naureen?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Not sure. Clear? No, resource partitioning is clear? Yes. Then tell me what is resource partitioning.
If two species compete for the same resource, then they can coexist by choosing different times for feeding or different foraging patterns.
Okay, can you give an example? Gayatri, an example for resource partitioning?
5 closely related warblers living on
How
a
many
same tree.
species?
The avoid competition.
They were growing on the same tree
5.
and by adopting different behavioral patterns of foraging, they were able to coexist rather than getting eliminated from that area. Okay, all these are important topics, even though very briefly they have given, repeatedly we can find questions from these parts. Now we are moving on to the next population interaction, that is parasitism. The basic things about this interaction, you know, parasite host relationship. They will be living inside or on the body of the host and they take nourishment from them. Then partial parasites are there, then complete parasites are there. Then based on where they are found, whether they are found growing within the body of the organism or outside the body of the organism, we can categorize them into ectoparasites, endoparasites. I think all these you might have learned in lower classes. Anyways, let's see in detail what is meant by parasitism. Parasitism, many parasites are host specific. They need that particular host. They can complete their life cycle only in the presence of that host. Okay, so majority of them are host specific. They can parasitize only a single host species. If they need to complete their life cycle, they need that host. In the absence of that host, they won't be able to complete their life cycle. So majority of them are host specific. And they tend to co-evolve. They evolve together. That is, if the host is evolving some special mechanisms against the parasite, if host is undergoing evolution, developing some mechanism, to match with that, the parasite also should evolve. Otherwise, the parasite won't be able to live or inside or on the body of that particular host. When the host is adopting and evolving some newer mechanisms, accordingly, a co-evolution is needed. The parasite also should change. It should also develop some adaptations. Only then they will be able to manage. When the host evolves some special mechanisms against the parasite, parasite has to evolve mechanism to counteract in order to be successful within the same host species. If only the host species is getting evolved and undergoing some changes, and the parasite is not undergoing evolution, no changes are taking place in the parasite, then what happens is this parasite won't be able to survive in that host organism. It won't be able to complete its life cycle. So co-evolution is very important. As and when the host is developing some mechanism to counteract, to compensate or to withstand that, even the parasite has to develop some adaptations. Now, some of the adaptations found in parasites: loss of sense organs. So they don't have any well-developed sense organs. Presence of adhesive organs or sucking organs to cling to the host. See, they don't have, majority of them, they will not have any sense organs or no well-developed nervous system and all will be absent, because parasites, they are living in a well-protected. So especially when they are living within the body of the host, they are living in well-protected and a stable environment, more or less stable environment, and hence, they don't require any nervous system or some specialized sense organs. So majority of them show lack of sense organs. And then they have some organs which will help them to get attached to the body of the host. Then digestive system is also not there, because once they live in the body of the host, they are taking nourishment, nutrients from them. So they don't need any digestive system. Already the digested nutrients they are absorbing. So they don't have to work, or their digestive system is not having any job. So they don't have digestive system, and they have high reproductive capacity. So they can multiply rapidly. Okay, so some of the features include lack of sense organs, presence of some adhesive or sticking or some suckers like structures which will help them to get attached to the body of the host, and then no digestive system, but at the same time they have got high reproductive capacity. Once again, majority of the parasites, they are specific to a particular host. In the absence of that particular host, they won't be able to complete their life cycle. They need the presence of that host. With that host only, they'll be able to complete their life cycle. And if the host organism, they are evolving and developing some mechanisms, some adaptations, the host, along with the host, the parasite also should develop some adaptations to counteract it. Both should evolve together. A co-evolution is needed. Otherwise, the parasite won't be able to survive within the host. And some of the adaptations developed by parasites include lack of sense organs. It's of no use to them because majority of them, especially when they live within the body of the host, they are in a well-protected and more or less stable environment. And no sense organs, no need of digestive system. They are depending upon the host organism for managing their nutrient requirements, but at the same time they have high reproductive capacity. And the life cycles, most of them have got a very complex life cycles. Human liver fluke. It's a leaf-shaped parasite, and it depends upon, it requires two hosts, two intermediate hosts are required, snail and fish. So to complete the life cycle, they need the presence of a host and snail. Only then they will be able to complete their life cycle, and it's a bit complex life cycle too. Similarly, malarial parasite, they cannot directly multiply within the body of a human being. And malarial parasite, it can cause a disease even in animals. But even if it has to cause a disease in human beings and multiply, they cannot directly enter the body of the host. They need a medium, they need a vector. Mosquitoes are needed. So only with the presence of using these two hosts, say for example, the malarial parasite causing malaria in human beings, they need both mosquito and the human being as host. Only then they will be able to complete its life cycle. Already you have learned the life cycle of Plasmodium in human health and diseases, and there you learn some stages are completed within human being, some stages are completed inside the body of the mosquito. So both are needed, both hosts are needed for them to complete their life cycle. Parasites, definitely they harm the host. That is why the relationship is known as parasitism. It's one will be benefited, the other will be harmed. Parasite-host relationship, definitely the host will be affected. They may reduce the survival, population density, growth, reproduction of the host. So once they are depending upon the host, or once they are growing within or on the body of the host, they affect the host organism negatively. They affect the host organism negatively. They can affect their survival. They may not be able to survive. They can threaten even their survival. Then their density, the population density, their number can reduce. It can affect their growth, the reproduction, which will in turn affect the population density. So their growth, ability to grow, ability to reproduce, their density, the population density, all that can be affected. And not only that, they can make them physically weak. So when parasites are growing within the body of the host, this can make them very weak, and they can become more susceptible to predation. So when if the animal is, or the organism is not strong, very weak, they can be easily preyed upon. The predator can easily attack them. So they become more vulnerable, more susceptible, or more prone to predation. So when their body is not when their body is not strong, when they are weak, they cannot withstand the predators. So they become more vulnerable to predators or predation. Once again, parasites, they have very complex life cycle, and some of the parasites, they need more than one host to complete their life cycle. Two such examples I told you. One is liver fluke, which needs snail and fish to complete its life cycle, and in the case of Plasmodium, human being, like mosquito, that vector is needed. So directly they are not entering human body. They need a vector. They need mosquito so that they get an entry to the body of human being. And there are specified stages in their life cycle which are completed within human being and within the body of the mosquito. And once, whatever be the host and parasite, they will harm, they will negatively affect the host organism. It can affect their growth, their reproduction, population density, and even the survival. And because of the presence of this, or because of the action of the parasite, hosts can become very weak. Once they are very weak, they become prone to, or they become susceptible to predation. And they can be easily defeated by the predators. Now, types of parasites. I don't think we have time to continue with the topic, so we'll be continuing next class. Let me take the attendance. Any doubts? Any doubts? So quickly summarize the points that we learned just now. Malavika, you may start.
Many parasites are host specific. They can parasite only host specific.
Okay, next point. Vidur. Vidur, you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
hear me, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They tend to co-evolve. That is, if the host evolves special mechanism.
Feeding, Vidur. It's time to cut your hair. Barber shops are getting open, no? I think some days are fixed. You can get your hair cut. I'm not able to see your face also properly. I'm struggling to see where are your eyes. At least comb properly and sit. Yes.
They tend
Okay.
to co-evolve.
Meenakshi?
They tend to co-evolve. That is, if the host has specific
You're
mechanism.
crying, Meenakshi?
No, ma'am.
Out of happiness. Okay. That I cannot hear anything. So whatever you want, you can say. Correct point you said, no? Yes, Nandana? Some audio problems. I'm finding it difficult to follow what you're saying. Rijaz? How can I miss you? Yes.
Life of parasite are often complex.
Yes, Sharon? All the points are completed?
Adaptations of parasites,
Adaptations of parasites.
loss of sense organs,
Loss of sense organs.
presence of adhesive organs, or suckers
Okay.
on the
What are the two hosts needed by the parasite liver fluke? Anthony, where did you go? Anthony? Yes. Two hosts needed by liver fluke to complete its life cycle. Just the names. One organism's name starts with yes. Very slow moving organism. As slow as a
Suckers.
snails and fishes. Then what else we learned? Malarial parasite. How can they enter human body? Which vector they need? Mosquito. Okay. So let me check the attendance. See you next class.